Hi, everyone. So we have Abbas here. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been such an honor to interview you and learn more about your syndication background in addition to in general in real estate.
Hey,
So
thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
awesome. I've done a lot of research about your background, and you spoke about growing up with seven siblings, growing up in Iraq, immigrating to Syria, then the United States. So I want to skip some of the introduction questions since a lot of the videos already allude to that. So I
Sure.
guess my first question would be, what would you tell your younger self um,
Yeah.
as you are on this path to success? What would you tell yourself? Any advice, any guidance?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I would take myself back to when I was 18. That's probably the best point to start. I would say I really, really, really underestimated how much volume I have to do in anything I decide to get into to actually be successful at it. Meaning when I got into I first started out in the sales businesses, and I thought I would, basically get in, spend a couple hours making some phone calls, door knocking, whatever, and I would be one of the top agents in the area. Then I quickly realized that I was way, way undershooting what it actually takes to get any sort of results. And so I learned that lesson the hard way. And Grant Cardone talks a lot about 10x, like 10x what you think you need to do, and that's actually the real number that you need. And I found that to be super, super true. So when I got into multifamily, it was the same thing. I was like, look, I'm gonna go in instead of focusing on 10 units because I hadn't invested at all before getting into multifamily. I decided, look, I'm just gonna go for 100 units and I'm gonna do 10 times more work. And then I realized even doing 10 times more work was not enough. I had to ramp it up even further. So I was able to exceed my goals last year. We ended up with 258 units, but it took a lot more work than I thought. And if I was to go back, I would say, look, just set that expectation up front so that way you don't get discouraged when you fail over and over and over again.
Right, right. And I also noticed that you mentioned networking, making personal
Mhm,
connections. So as you're very active on social media. So as
mhm.
you scale and grow your business, how do you ensure that every connection you make is meaningful and impactful?
Yeah, I think it's hard, to be honest with you, to do that, to make every connection impactful. I mean, the reality is when you go to networking events or anywhere, you're meeting someone for like 30 minutes, right? Or less sometimes. So what I do is when I meet people, I focus on them and I ask questions about them so they realize that I'm actually interested in their story. And then what I do, this is why I'm active on social media because and I post videos, I make posts of what I'm doing. And people actually connect with you much, much better as they start to see your story and as they start to see your life unfold in front of them on social media. Sometimes I go to events now and it's like people I've met like 6 months ago or a year ago. And, I meet so many people, sometimes I forget their exact stories, but they come up to me and they're like, know everything about my life. And it's like, oh, yeah, you were there. It's like, oh, you know who I am, you know? So it's pretty cool. So I would say honestly, Facebook is a big part of what I do for that reason.
Do you feel like a celebrity of some sort? At
Not at
some
all. No,
level,
I'm
right?
I'm
No?
too small. I'm too small. I'm too small. Not at all. No,
I
but it's
watch like
it's good to like like in my database I have 2,700 people that I added, and then it's the same number on Facebook. I have 2,600 quote unquote friends, right, on Facebook. But the idea is, everybody I meet, I add on social media. I add on social media and I post so that way they get to see what I'm doing.
got it. Makes sense. And I'm
Yeah.
curious to know, what would you say your brand represents? You talk about the points of marketing and everything. So what does it represent?
Yeah. No, that's a good question. I would say commitment and focus. I mean, that's one of my biggest things is look, whatever you decide to do, just focus on that. Because sometimes I see people focused on too many things at the same time, and it's like you don't know what they're actually doing, right? They're doing this and they're doing that. They do this for 2 months, they do that for whatever a year. So I'm just focused on one thing. I always like to focus on one thing, and to me that because everything is so difficult and you're competing with people that a lot of times have been more established. Sometimes they might be smarter than you, they might have more money than you. So if you're like halfway focused and you're doing a bunch of things, you're just not, in my opinion, you're not going to have the same amount of success as you otherwise would have.
Right. And how do you, I guess, for someone who's very ambitious, how do you narrow down? I'm sure you're pulled in so many directions, so many collaborations, so many
Yeah,
projects. How do you kind
all
of
the time.
zone in?
Yeah, I've learned that the most important word is no. No, like sometimes I get so many people are like, "Hey, do you want to do this thing with me?" I'm like, "I can't. No, it's not fitting with my target. My goal is to do 10,000 units by 2031. So if it doesn't add to that goal, I will just dismiss it. I'll say no, because a lot of times we get all these shiny objects like, oh, you could do this and make this much money. It's like, yeah, but then I lose focus here, and this is really the bigger pie. This is the bigger cake I actually want to focus on. So I just say no to everything else, you know?
Hmm. No, it's probably the hardest thing. Even on a smaller scale, like for me at work, you want to take on so many projects. I'm sure it's even 10 times harder for you when, like, there's even more projects and more money on the table, right?
Right. Oh, 100%. And then also another thing I've learned, and I don't know if this is a bad thing for other people here or not, but like I focus a lot on, finances and like, hey, does this thing actually make financial sense or not? And at some point I've just realized like if something doesn't make X amount of dollars, like I shouldn't even consider it. If the potential is not huge, I don't want to waste my time even thinking about it.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Um, I I guess to add on to my next question, you mentioned general partnering for additional 1,000 units. So, what
Right.
would you do differently this year? I know we're a month or 2 months in, or well, a month and a few weeks in. So, what would you do differently to accomplish that goal?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I first got into multifamily last year. It was January 31st is when I actually signed up with Brad Samak to get into multifamily, and I knew nothing about multifamily. So I spent the first like 4 months just learning what the business actually is and understanding it, and then from there on, I actually started, working on things. But having said that, the nice thing is in this business is you're building onto your previous work, meaning last year I met X amount of investors. Well, those investors are not going away this year. I'm just adding more to them. So it's getting bigger and bigger in that aspect. The other thing is with your connections in terms of brokers and who you're meeting, right? So last year I met, let's say I established a connection with, half of the brokers in Dallas. Well, now this year I have that half, then I add the other half, right? So and then you just build onto what you already have. So I think in this business, what I've noticed is that it's super hard up front because you're trying to like, crack through that initial deal. That first deal is the hardest. And then the second deal is, a little less hard to get. The third deal, I'm guessing, is going to be less hard. And, so as you continue to grow, I think it's just going to get easier and easier and easier. And that's why you could do more numbers because you have you have more capacity to take on more.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. And you're
Yeah,
growing exponentially as well.
right.
Yeah.
And I spoke with some people like Charlie Young, who's, I mean, I think he's at like 11,000 units right now. He's done 30,000 in the past. And that's one of the things he says. He's like, look, at first, the first like year or two or three, you're like just lugging it out. It's super slow. It's super painful. But, once you get over that initial phase, then it just, you start just accelerating like you wouldn't believe.
Snowball effect as well.
Yep, absolutely.
I guess it's okay to move on to more of the testimonial questions.
Sure, absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay. First question, what was your initial hesitation with using cash flow portal?
Yeah, I mean, it was, to be honest with you, it's kind of like an initial product, like they're still going through the setup phases of it. And so that worried me a little, like, do they actually have the things I need? Are they still work? Is it like a broken system? But then I realized once I actually started using it that it's way beyond, it's not even in beta anymore, in my opinion. I think it's way beyond, like it's a really complete product. It's super nice, super clean, super easy to use. And I've used another product before this. I'm not going to mention the name, but it was like super, like it's fully finished, but it's super clunky. It's super painful to deal with, and everything's just a hassle. So I've been a super fan of Cashflow Portal.
A lot of other syndicators have said the same thing in terms of initial hesitation,
Yeah,
not, having the credibility just yet. Not sure if they
right.
should, give it a chance, but glad to see that, was worthwhile.
Oh yeah.
Well, after using the platform, did you receive any results or benefits?
Did I receive any one? I'm sorry.
Results or benefits?
Yeah, I mean, I would say not having to take an investor call on every like on the last deal we did prior to the one we did with Cashflow Portal. Every single investor that wanted to invest had to call me to walk them through the process because it was just so complicated and so there was so many glitches and all that stuff. So on the last deal, the nice thing is, I sent it to people. They went online, they signed up. It was super easy to go through, and I barely received any people saying, "Hey, how do you do this?" Things like it's super intuitive, right? So that's, in my opinion, I think that saved me tens of hours easily. And when you're doing a deal, every hour counts because like you have so many things you're doing. You're raising money, you're signing documents, like you're dealing with the lender, you're dealing with the seller, you're dealing with the agent, whatever. And so it's like you don't want distractions that shouldn't be there. So that's kind of what I liked, is that it's so easy. People are able to just kind of do things on their own without needing my help.
Right. They don't need to call you and waste your
No,
time.
right. No, I mean, yeah, I mean, exactly. I don't want them to go through a hassle just to sign the documents. You know what I mean?
Right. What's the biggest challenge of using other, I guess you mentioned other syndication software. You mentioned other syndication softwares and as user friendly. Are there additional context color you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, being clunky and asking for things that are really not necessary up front. For example, like on the other one that I used, one of the things that they require up front is the ACH information and the banking information. Now, you got to realize it's super clunky to even sign the basic documents, let alone having my investors put in their bank account info and connect that and get it approved. And it's like, it's such a mess. When we're doing a deal, I just want the most important things to be done first, which are, look, I want people to sign the documents. I want them to be able to fund, so that way we can close on the deal. I'll get the bank account information added later on at their own pace. And so that's kind of the things I discussed with Barry, is because he's adding the ACH features. Like, look, don't make that as a requirement up front. We could do that later. And so that's one of the things he's going to work on when he sets that up. But yeah, I mean, just letting us focus on the things that matter most up front, so I don't get hassled by things that don't matter. You know what I mean?
Right, right. Keep pain points up front, right? And then
Exactly.
all the additional information can become after in
Right.
features.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't want to waste their time with things that are not required right now.
Makes sense. Just a few more questions in terms of what's the feature you like the most or you're the biggest advocate for?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like the whole system, to be honest with you. There isn't really one feature I like over another. I think what I like best about it though is how clean it looks. Like, if you actually, when we did uploaded our deal and I went on the website for the deal, like, it looks super nice and super professional. So people actually get, they could see it's well done and it's not a fly by night type of operation. So that's kind of what I liked best up front, is the customer experience. But in the back end, personally, what I like is they're not specific feature, but I would say just how intuitive the whole process is. And like, you don't need to have a coding degree just to understand how to use the website. It's super basic and super simple.
I think for millennials like us, oh, you may be a little younger, but
Yeah.
uh,
I think I'm Gen Z is what they call us.
Gen Z, oh my gosh, you're making me look so old. But I mean, we all like to use like the super easy platform, right? Can be like super hard to navigate. I mean, if it's
Right.
super hard for me, I'm just like, okay, I'm not signing up for this free trial. Like, it's too much work.
Right. No, exactly. And I want it to look visually nice, right? Because especially if you're spending time on it, like, I don't want it to look like it was made in the 90s or the 2000s. So yeah, I mean, I like how simple it is. A lot of times what I notice with the other platforms is that they overcomplicate things. It's like, you don't need to just keep it nice, keep it simple. We're just using this to, store the information of the investors, get them to fund, right? So I don't need it to be complicated.
Right. And then I guess, are there any features that you would like to be developed or would like to be on the roadmap?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the ACH, and I talked to Perry about that, the ACH feature, and then we went over a number of other things that he's going to add on as well. I can't recall exactly what they were, but we added a bunch of things. One of the things I really like so far is having that public GP and investor, part of the website where people can connect with other syndicators directly. I've actually been able to get a few investors out of it, which is really cool, because it's like I'm not putting any time or effort. It's my page is just sitting there, and people are sending me, an email to connect. So it's like, okay, there's a free investor basically.
The
So that's
marketplace.
been a nice feature. Is that what it's called, the marketplace?
Yes.
Yeah. See, I don't know the names, but yeah, exactly. It's been really nice, and it also makes you look more credible, I guess. If people want to check you out, that's just another free platform that you could add it on. And I didn't pay for it. I don't know if you guys want to charge for that in the future or not, but it was free, so it was cool.
I don't think we're charging as of right now, but I'm sure there's a different fee schedule or payment option in the
Yeah, I
future.
mean, even if there's a fee, it's worth it because I've been able to connect with a bunch of people already from it, so it's been nice.
That's great.
Yeah,
Have you scheduled like calls with them and have they
yeah.
invested in your deals yet or?
Uh, they haven't invested in any of my deals because they have. I only got added recently, but yeah, I have scheduled calls. We got on the phones with I think like three of them already, and it's been great. And it's just been a few weeks since he added me, so I'll take three free investors.
That's amazing. Well, this is how we connected too. I kind of connected with you on the marketplace.
That's right. Yep. No, 100%.
I just have two more questions. The second to last is, would you encourage other syndicators to use cash flow portal?
Yeah, I've already, sometimes people ask in these Facebook groups, like, who do you recommend? I'm like, oh, just sign up with this. You don't need to waste your time. You don't need to go through the same hassle I went through. Just sign up directly with Cashflow Portal because it makes the whole process so much easier. There's no reason not to. So, yeah, I absolutely 100% give it my thumbs up approval.
So your next syndication deal will also include a cash flow portal?
Absolutely, why not?
That's great to hear.
And by the way, I'm not getting paid by Perry. I will say that. It's a real
We should put
testimonial.
in we should put in large numbers, like not endorsed. And then my last question would be anything you want to share with the viewers today? Any new syndicators, investors, any advice you'd like to give?
Advice I would like to give. I don't know. I mean, like I said, if you're a syndicator and if you're just starting out, work harder than you think because it requires a lot of work. But if you stick to it, you'll get results. That's what happened with me. I mean, I failed so many times. I wrote so many offers, and it's like, we work so hard to actually write an offer because you go through so much to analyze the deal and whatnot, and then you end up failing because you didn't submit a high enough offer. And so, stick through it because every time it's demoralizing when you spend 3 weeks on a property and you've seen it, you've done all that stuff, and then they're like, oh, we're going with this other guy who paid $2 million more than you paid. It's like, oh, what could have, like the numbers sometimes just don't make sense. But yeah, I mean, you just stick with it, and if you keep working, things eventually start working for you as well. So. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, with I know you are a real estate agent. So did you come into the syndication industry with more of like I have maybe a one up against everyone since I have that background knowledge and network already, or did you come in as more like I'm on the same level field as everyone. I need to work just as hard.
Yeah, I mean, we all come into any business with different benefits. Like some people come in and they have, way more connections than I do, or maybe they have way more money than I do, whatever the case is, or maybe they're already in the industry. So obviously, you got to use your advantages as much as possible. So I did have some advantages, and that is more with understanding how to identify the right markets and the right properties. Because I sell so many properties in the Bay Area, I've been able to, like, I could understand a good market and a bad market very, very quickly because I've seen it, hundreds of thousands of times. So that is an advantage, is understanding the real estate aspect to it. The other thing I've been able to use as a leverage is because I'm a real estate broker, and in my business we work on listings. So I'm on the listing side a lot. So I know when I talk to buyers what I want to hear a buyer say for me to choose their offer over a different offer. So now that I'm on the other end where I'm the buyer and I'm talking to a broker, I know what they want to hear, and it's easy for me to use that psychology, I guess, when I'm presenting an offer and building those relationships. So definitely, I did have some advantages, but the multifamily business is very different, right? It's very different, and I think at some point, almost everybody, you're starting at from ground zero, and you might use some of your advantages, right? That you should, but otherwise, we're all starting from scratch, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, right. Just got to work hard, right?
Absolutely, 100%, 100%. But yeah, I mean, use whatever advantages you have. I mean, because the competitors and the other people are going to use their advantages, so might as well.
Very true. Very true. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I am going to
Absolutely.
stop the recording.
I appreciate you having me.